Hi, welcome to Money Matters TV. We have a great show for you today, and I am joined by my host today, Jim DeLorenzo from Jim DeLorenzo Public Relations.
Hi, Patty.
It's good to see you.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, so, it was election week recently, and here we are again. I know they've been doing a lot of recaps about what happened at last year's presidential election.
Oh, 1 year later, yes, the retrospectives.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it?
It is interesting to see how the story evolved from last year to this year, but also to see how the media still hasn't figured out what went wrong on their end, how they missed the story. It seems like they missed a lot of stories.
Do you think so?
I think so. Whether or not it was intentional or whether it was just through overlooking something, but there are a lot of different stories that the word that is often bandied about is mainstream media or media elites, but I don't know if I agree with either of those phrases, but there are certain things that they were predisposed not to notice, which is an interesting public relations maneuver. Well, I think we have this new book out from Donna Brazil, who was the head of the Democratic National Committee, and a lot of the things that she has said in her interviews publicizing the book are things that were never reported on last year but seemed very obvious, like the fact that they were looking for perhaps another candidate to replace Secretary Clinton because of her health, and how that didn't seem to be a story last year, and if anybody had even suggested that, they were kind of castigated as, how can you say that? But it was something that was apparently on their minds, and people just kind of overlooked that.
That's interesting, because I heard other stories about how the Democratic National Committee swayed the primaries.
Yeah, and that was another story that was kind of out there in the, I think Senator Sanders had said that he felt there was something not right about the process, and people weren't taking him seriously either, but it turns out he had a pretty good idea what was going on.
Yeah, and that all comes back to public relations. So how do you sway a conversation to get good press about yourself and make sure it's heard?
I think one of the keys in those instances were, in Senator Sanders' case, he hit on it early in the primary process, but then he kind of let it go. He did not continue to harp on that or to reiterate that message that, okay, I think that this is rigged, or I think this is wrong, and he didn't keep up with it. He just kind of let it pass until it was too late.
And you don't think it makes you sound like sour grapes if you keep saying something?
It's not sour grapes until after it's all over. If you do it after it's all over, it's not sour grapes. But I think that at the time of the primaries, perhaps, he could have done a lot more for himself if he had gone out there and talked about it on CNN, talked about it on MSNBC, talked about it on CBS, Face the Nation, and the other shows where he was out there talking about issues, but he was not talking about the race itself.
Right. And then that would have been a great Saturday Night Live immediate guest, right?
Right. You would have had Larry David, harping about how he was. Exactly. He would have had 4 more years as a character on the show, perhaps.
Yeah. So then tell me, how can a business get press for themselves?
Well, one of the great things about public relations that I believe in is the power of storytelling. And a business needs to find what is the story that they want to tell. Whether it's, we have this great new product, we have this great new facility, we have this great new person that we just hired or started this company. The stories that will resonate with people and the stories that you feel are, this is an important story, we really want to tell this story. That's a great way to start the ball rolling, because public relations isn't about advertising, it isn't about paying for coverage, it's about earning the coverage. And you want to earn customers' trust from the media, trust from the general audience. So the one way to earn trust is to tell an authentic story. Be truthful and honest and open about, we have this product. It's not the same as these other products. This is how it's different, but this is why we did this. Why did you do it? How did you do it? What makes you different? And I think that's a great way to use public relations to grow a business.
Now, here's the one that I think a lot of people struggle with, especially myself, as far as public relations. I'm in a very boring business. It's B2B. We're quiet. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're creating workable websites for companies. And I don't feel like that's a great story. So how do you take somebody's selling windshield wiper fluid? How do you take something that's not so exciting as launching some great new company or great new product and make it exciting?
Well, in your instance that you mentioned about the windshield wiper fluid, perhaps, there's a slew of publications in the automotive industry that are looking for stories. And they're looking for content because they're just like anyone else. They need to have stories to tell so people can read their website or read their publication. So one of the ways I would suggest in a situation like that is find how this windshield wiper, is it a fluid company? Windshield wiper fluid? How are they different from their competitors? What are they doing differently? What is the core thing that makes company A better than company B? And how are you helping bring that story to light through your web development? Mm-hmm. So you have a story there where you're working with them to pull this out of them, and you're getting that story, you're getting that storyline, and you can go back to, say, the automotive trade publications and say, we have client A who really does a great job doing this, and this is how my company, Xercel, has helped them build their brand.
You know what's really interesting when I think, we're just a website company. I mean, we do really good work and we really care about customers. And I think, well, it's not that different than any other web company. Just like some products aren't any different than others. And I have to tell you, just a little anecdote. I bought a store brand version of Saran Wrap one time, just because I needed Saran Wrap and that's what they had. And I thought, it's just Saran Wrap. It's been around forever. Everybody does the same thing. It wouldn't even stick to itself.
Right.
I don't even understand why. I don't get it. It's been around forever. And then I think, I guess
we should have gone with the actual Saran Wrap from the company that creates Saran Wrap,
right? Because
they do it right.
Yeah. So I think the same thing about your company, my company. Everybody's different. Some people do it right. Just because they've been around forever doesn't mean they're doing the right thing.
But the other thing is, what do you do that is different from the other companies that you compete with? What is at the core of what you're doing? Is it you yourself? Is it your ideas? Is it your personality? That's your selling point. That's how you're getting clients. So then you take that and turn it around saying, okay, how can I help this client? Okay, what's their core competency? What's their great little story? What's the little nugget in there? You find that message, you work on building that with what you're doing on the web, but at the same time you can work on that as, okay, that's what I'm doing to help them. Here's how I can help other people. That's my part of the story.
I know, it's exciting. We don't overlap. It's really nice how we...
And once you find those core stories, once you find those little nuggets, you can build and build and build. But you have to find that core element first.
Yeah. All right, good. Let me ask you this question. Are you ready? Roberta Jenkins from Philadelphia says, how can public relations help businesses? And that's a very broad question, right?
It is a very broad question, and Roberta, thank you for asking. Some of what I had just said to Patty is applicable to that, but it can help your business by getting you out there, getting your story told. We all have a story that we want to tell. Some stories are better than others, but public relations, a professional such as myself, can help you find what that story is and how it would perhaps resonate with an audience beyond your office. A lot of times when you have a business, you're very focused on building that business and building your company, and you don't have the time or the skill set to tell your own story because you're busy building the business. And what you can do with a public relations professional is learn what stories are going on under your very nose and say, we're really doing this. This is really good, but nobody else knows about it. Well, why doesn't anybody else know about it? Because you haven't told anybody about it yet. So you can work with a public relations professional to help you tell that unique little story that's inside your own walls and under your own nose. And then once you get that element out there, you can work on other elements to tell the story. And again, I look at public relations as storytelling. And how can you get that story told? Public relations can help a business by getting stories told and getting coverage earned, whereas advertising and marketing helps you buy an ad, buy a website, build a presence, but it doesn't, the content itself, the story that you're trying to tell is what your public relations people can help you find and get out there.
One question is, how do people find out, like Philadelphia Business Journal, do they have a calendar of topics?
They do. They do have a calendar that they publish on their website, and publications like that often have an editorial calendar that you can look at and say, oh, I would really like to be part of that, or maybe next year I'm ready to do that. Like if you see something that's in the most recent issue of the Philadelphia Business Journal as an example, and you say, oh, I wonder if they do this every year. You can go up on the Philadelphia Business Journal website and say, okay, this is how their editorial calendar plays out for 2018.
And then you send them your ideas ahead of time?
You send them your ideas ahead of time, or you start networking with them. And one of the things, again, public relations helping a business, perhaps you don't have the time or the bandwidth to go out and network with Kenneth Hilario at the Philadelphia Business Journal, or Jeff George at the Business Journal, or Joe DiStefano at the Philadelphia Inquirer.
But you already did it for them?
But I'm someone like me knows those people and can say, okay, I'd like to introduce you to Keith. And Keith has a great story to tell.
Okay, so let's kind of get to that. But first, some people are going to have questions. And if you have questions for Money Matters TV, here's how to send them in.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Welcome back, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Keith Modzelewski, who is the director for Accelerator, East Stroudsburg University. It's nice to meet you, Keith.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so to kick it off, I know a little earlier you told me that you've only been at your company for around 2 months. How did you get there? Where'd you come from?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. So I've been with the East Stroudsburg University's Business Accelerator and Entrepreneurship program since early September, just after Labor Day. And I'm there to help students and businesses understand how they can work and be part of the ecosystem up in Monroe County. Getting to that point, I was working with the University of Delaware's Business Incubator program. I was working with about 30 different businesses across all colleges at the university as a mentor, guiding them through storytelling and helping them understand the why of what they were doing so that they could be able to articulate their message in a way that was compelling to their potential customers. Prior to that, I was running my own chem startup that was working with basically fancy plastics to replace metals in electronics so that you could do paper-thin electronics.
Oh my God, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was one of those things where if I had learned how to fail fast, it would have gone a little bit better, because we, over 5 years, realized that the technology didn't scale beyond the lab benchtop chemistry. But it gave me a great background in being able to help entrepreneurs. It had me working in South America for a year with a government grant down there. I was working with the Kauffman Foundation, where I learned a lot of the principles of how do you teach entrepreneurship from the leading minds from Harvard, Stanford, and MIT.
How did you get those opportunities?
I put myself out there. After completing an MBA, I happened to see the opportunity for the Kauffman Foundation and applied for it, and was one of 20 that was selected from around the world to go out and work with them on that. And then I was consulting with a startup company out in San Francisco, and their major client was this organization in South America called Startup Chile, and my company was looking for funding, and they were willing to provide us some equity-free funding. So I just had to, unfortunately, go live in South America for a year. It was
Such a hardship.
It was really an amazing experience being that close to the mountains and the beach and just seeing the flourishing ecosystem that's down there. It has really opened up a world of networking opportunities. So I have connections all across the world now with entrepreneurs and like-minded individuals.
Now, you've come from the University of Delaware background as an undergrad and a MBA student.
Correct.
And now you're bringing some of the business principles that you've learned on the outside world, as we used to call it when I was working on campus. How do you find the role of the campus environment impacting business environment both ways? How do you find the businesses learning and the students learning?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the businesses are really learning how to communicate with a different market, and that being the younger generations of students that are coming through there. It's a very different workforce that's coming out of there. And you have to market to them a lot differently. So by being able to cross-collaborate with them, it's enabling businesses to start to have those conversations early and start to line up those internships earlier on so you can create that. On the student perspective, it's really kind of helping them find their passion and helping them figure out how to articulate their story. And once they start to do that and, really trying to kick them out of the building per se, so that they're going out and talking to the potential employers, potential customers ahead of time, really helps set them apart as they go into the job force because they've learned that language as a student. They understand how to get involved with businesses. They understand what is that unique problem or what's that unique value that they're able to talk about and really sell themselves.
What is it? Can you give us an overview, or the lay person an overview of what an accelerator is?
Yeah, absolutely. So an accelerator, the definition varies from place to place. It's really a place that help foster innovation and help grow a business and help give them the ability to fail fast and learn how to grow from those opportunities. The whole idea, I said fail fast a couple of times, and really the idea behind that is I don't want to have a business that comes in there waste hundreds of thousands of dollars building a product that doesn't have a market for it. So I'd rather have them make incremental improvements to it by engaging with their potential customers early on, and by doing that be able to get to a more fully functioning product a lot sooner. And so we help teach that mentality, that methodology to be able to get to that point.
So you help people avoid that Shark Tank moment where they ask them how much they've invested on this little water bottle and they say $300,000 and you cringe inside.
Absolutely. And that's the problem. It's a $300,000 cringe when if you could have figured it out that it wasn't going to work at $300, it would have been a much different pain point that was being addressed.
So is your program super structured? Are they in a classroom?
So it is. We are currently in our fourth generation of the program. So the program started back in 2001 and has expanded. We're now into the fourth location for the Accelerator at ESU. And the Economic Development Commission up there basically commissioned a study to make sure that this was actually viable for Monroe County. And what they found out was that there really was a need to support young entrepreneurship. And so right now we've built out a 51,000 square foot building up in the Poconos to be able to help bring new businesses there. Regarding structure, it is a developing structure, and it's really a lot of one-on-one coaching because each business has its own unique challenges. And so it's really starting to help them develop a market and be able to develop those connections. And what's really unique is the Poconos, surprising to me, having just been there for 8 weeks and relocating from a completely different geographic area, was really close to New York. Like, they told me that it was closer to New York than Philly, and I said, "Are you sure?" And I had to go back and look at it to really understand that, yeah, we have a really great opportunity to be able to network with a lot of different major metropolitan areas up there and being able to help foster those connections.
Are they going to do an Amazon bid?
I think they did.
That makes sense.
But, it's interesting. You have a lot of economic development offices that are putting this effort into Amazon bids. And if you really supported entrepreneurship at a grassroots level, I think you'd see a much higher return on your investment, because people like, and the next generation is being touted as the most entrepreneurial generation. And so if you really help foster them, you're going to help create the next Amazon and not have to worry about necessarily bringing the next Amazon to your area.
That makes sense.
Do you think students that you're dealing with today and students that you dealt with at the University of Delaware, do they realize how unique the United States is as far as entrepreneurial spirit? Is that something that they understand, or is that something that they have to learn?
And is it that unique?
You know, I think what is interesting is you have these students that are now seeing the hardship that a lot of their parents went through during these depressional areas, where you're no longer seeing a 40-year career in one job location or with one company. And so that is really fostering this idea of entrepreneurship, because they've seen that hardship firsthand and don't want to do that. They want to go through and be able to build what they want to work on. And what's really cool is you ask about how is this fostered in the US versus internationally. Well, we actually have a J1 visa program at ESU where businesses from around the world that are interested in entering into the US market can be sponsored by us through a State Department approval.
Oh, interesting.
So they can come to ESU and work out of our Innovation Center for up to 5 years to launch their companies in the US.
And do you give them office space? Like, what are the benefits of it?
So they are connected into our ecosystem, which is really blossoming right now. You know, it's in its infancy, but it's got a lot of high energy behind it right now, starting with our leadership from Dr. Marcia Welsh, who is the president of the university. And she has really been the spearhead since I've been there to really foster this idea of innovation. Now, businesses that are coming there is a license agreement that they pay. Depends on how much office space they need. We do have a hot desk model similar to like a WeWorks, where you can just rent a single desk, or so it really depends on what the business needs and what they are trying to find.
Are you getting businesses to cooperate that are outside of Monroe County, or are the people coming in from the Philadelphia market or the New York market, or is that something that you hope to bring to East Stroudsburg?
Yeah, so that's something that we are hoping to bring to East Stroudsburg. So the businesses that are currently in the Accelerator are really a cross-section of all different industries, from men's grooming products to cybersecurity to DNA tick checking to mold mitigation, and it's kind of this really interesting cross-collaboration that you're seeing that's happening there. And what's cool is we still have 16,000 square feet of offices that are going to be built out by next August. So we're looking to bring in new businesses from anywhere that's interested and wants to have this experience of living in the mountains, being close to a metropolitan area, and having this outdoor way of life in a blossoming tech hub.
Wow.
So is it established businesses that come if you want to grow?
Yes. So we are primarily focused on businesses that are less than 8 years old. Our innovation center is really geared towards younger companies that are trying to figure out that growth, that aren't ready to have necessarily their own entire office building, or that need a whole office suite. And we're trying to help them grow. And, you know, the goal of an accelerator is not to have a slow, painful death within an accelerator. It's really to accelerate their growth so that they can go out into the region and be able to support full real estate markets, build out their businesses, and create jobs.
And how long do they stay in the program?
So they can stay in the program for up to 8 years. We've had a whole bunch of companies that have graduated earlier than that. And we do have some companies that have been in there longer. They are part of what's called our anchor tenants. They are there as really mentor companies for the younger ones that are coming in.
I don't want to keep asking the questions, but I'm curious.
Right. Yeah.
Do you see a lot of collaboration between the companies or merging?
Absolutely. So, you know, for example, we had a cybersecurity and web marketing company that is now partnered with our DNA lab that's part of ESU University, and they are one of the largest labs in the East Coast for doing DNA tick checks to help reduce the risk of Lyme disease spreading and early detection for that. And who would have thought a cybersecurity-based company would partner with that.
Yeah.
And so we're continuing to try and foster that type of cross collaboration. And part of it is just getting the dialogue started, because that's, you mentioned connections earlier. And when you start to talk about connections, you don't know who the other person knows.
Right.
And it's only by having that dialogue of collaboration do you start to understand where you can start to fit together and play together.
Now, a lot of what we talked about is on the Accelerator side. Are you doing anything on the Incubator side with current East Stroudsburg students? Or
That's a great thing that you mentioned. So we have what's called our Entrepreneurship Leadership Center on campus. And that is doing two different things right now. We have our Entrepreneurship Club on campus, and that's really engaging in this cross-collaboration. Right now, our university mission is empowering innovation through collaboration, and so we're using the Entrepreneurship Club as a mechanism to really reach out to the different walks of life in there. In terms of incubation for students, I'm launching a Warrior Launchpad, which ESU is the Warriors.
Right.
We're launching our Launchpad next semester to be able to help students that are not quite ready to be part of an accelerator program launch their business and help them with networking, mentoring, and developing their business model.
that sounds great. And you're getting good response or in the early stages of that?
So in the 2 weeks that the 2 months that I've been there, we've already had about 5 or 6 businesses that have approached me and been interested in what that application process is going to look like. So it's starting to gain some pretty good traction so
That's
far.
wonderful.
What got the person running the program to start it?
So it really started from an economic development perspective of the area was, I'm not fully fledged in all the details having been there for so little amount of time, but the area was needing some innovation and some revitalization after the housing crisis. And, the area there's a large commuter population to New York, but after the 9/11 timeframe, people started to feel safer in the cities again, they left that area. So, we have this great culmination right now of really affordable housing that's up there, a ecosystem that's supporting entrepreneurship, and these international connections that are developing to really help see some good change happening in the region.
That's pretty exciting.
And how much cooperation are you getting from Monroe County and they're backing your efforts 100%, I would imagine.
So there is the Monroe County 2030 Economic Development Plan that is out right now. There's a couple of different working groups and committees that are out there that are supporting these types of initiatives across the entire county. One of the major ones that we're involved with is the Pocono Mountain Keystone Innovation Zone. So for new businesses that are under 8 years old, they're able to take advantage of some pretty significant tax credits for growing their business in the county.
That's really fantastic. I am really glad that we got to chat about it.
Yes.
I feel really excited. I wish I could be in an incubator at this point in my life.
Well, we always have room for you if you want to join us.
And congratulations on your new role at East Stroudsburg. It sounds
Thank
like
you.
you're going to have a lot of exciting things coming up.
It's a very exciting opportunity and a very exciting time to be up in that area to be able to see and enact change from the ground level.
That's wonderful. So I thank you guys for being on the show. And next week, we're going to be joined by John Weidenhammer from P. Weidenhammer, which is a consulting company. I hope you'll join us again next week. Thank you.